Hey everyone! First, a big cheers to families who have kiddos back in school. Mine started 5th and 3rd grade today, and they're so excited. They love their teachers, and I have a lot of things that did not get done this summer that I can't wait to do. So if you are a parent that is experiencing the joy of your children going back to school, leave a comment and let me know what grade they're in. Or if you are struggling with the fact that your kiddo is going back to school, because all the big feelings show up during these transitions. Also, tell me that as well. I have been working with a number of newborn and toddler clients lately, and the thing that keeps coming up for parents is I had no idea how important the bedtime routine was. And that is just one part of the sleep plan that I create for parents, the pathway that helps children go into sleep is actually really supported by science. So I have basically 5 things that I like to include in the routine that you can start doing tonight. You're already doing some of them, but I actually think it's going to help you change the way you feel about bedtime if you know why you're doing them and the science behind them. So the 5 things that I love to include, just to break them down really quickly, is same time, same thing, cozy cave, how does it feel, and then read your audience. So using those 5 things, we can talk a little bit more about each one. Starting your bedtime at the same time will help you recruit your child's body clock. So you want your child's circadian rhythm to know exactly when to start producing calming hormone each night. So if your child is going into unconsciousness at 7:30 some nights and 10 p.m. other nights, how is your child's brain going to learn when to produce all the calming hormones that they need to go to sleep? So creating a bedtime routine that you start at the same time is key. And then number 2 is doing all the same things over and over again. Because again, if you start the bedtime, even if you start it every night at 7:30 on the dot, but you do something different to prepare for bed, the brain's not getting the memo that bedtime is coming and they need to produce the calming hormone. So starting the bedtime routine at the same time and then doing the same sequence of things. When I start with infants or newborns, I have parents read the same book for a week, same bedtime book, and parents want to fire me. But then I say, go ahead and add one more book into your parenting repertoire and get rid of the one that you're sick of. And that really, really helps. Seeing the same pictures, hearing the same words really, really helps kiddos know, like, oh, cue the hormone, bedtime is coming. Number 3 is dealing with the sleep environment. And I mean, there's so many reasons why we want a really dark room, but I like parents to think about a cozy cave because there are actually 3 things that play into our sleep environment that can be really helpful for reducing the amount of times your child re-alerts. So oftentimes we start the bedtime, but then we don't get into bed into a dark, slow, cool, cozy space soon enough, and the brain thinks, I guess we're not going to sleep. I thought we were, but now I know that we're going to play games or eat a snack or do something else. So I'm going to re-alert so that this child has the energy to do this activity. So what we want to continue doing is sending that message. We're going to sleep. We're going to sleep. Cue the hormone. Going to sleep. No Tasmanian devils here, because that is what will happen when your child re-alerts. You're going to notice that your child's running around and spinning out of control and maybe can't even look at you because they're so overtired, but their body thinks they need the energy to stay awake. So once you can dim the lights, have a cool room where they get to bundle up in a blanket and slow down. So slow your words down, slow actions down, stop the body from moving. Reading books is a really great thing. Giving a massage is really helpful. When you do those things, it's just one step closer to unconsciousness for your child. So cozy cave. The other one is to ask yourself, how does bedtime feel? If you're stressed out, if you're rushing, if you're frustrated, if you're just burned out by the end of the day, and it wouldn't surprise you to know that bedtimes and burnout go together. And hilariously, I planned a workshop to discuss those two things totally separate of one another, but now I realize they do go together, right? At the end of the day, if you are feeling physically or emotionally exhausted, the bedtime routine is going to feel brutal for you as a parent. But also we might ask ourselves, like, how does the child feel? Does the child feel like I'm rushing them? Does the child feel pressured? Does the child feel like they have no control over this situation? Because many kids are pushing back, protesting, they're pushing buttons, and they know exactly what to do to cause you to really react during the bedtime routine. If that's happening, then that's a sign usually, if their behavior is off and they're power struggling and having tantrums at bedtime, that's a sign that it doesn't feel good to them either. So taking a look at how you can create more connection, more sweetness, slow it down, more meaning between the two of you, so more meaningful connection would be really, really helpful for both you and for your child to shift the way bedtime feels. If bedtime feels easy, if it feels sweet, if it feels connected, if it feels really grounded in what's important, which for me as a parent is finishing the day with my child feeling really connected, close, authentic, and kind, right? If you're focused on those feelings at the end of the day, then bedtime usually goes a lot smoother. So that's actually one of my favorite secret weapons for bedtime. Asking yourself, how does it feel? And then you check in every night. You ask yourself as you're watching your child, brush their teeth, how does this bedtime feel right now? How do I want it to feel until the moment they are unconscious? And guide your decisions, your choices, etc. from that place of how it feels. And then the last thing that I tell parents is really important to ask yourself or to check in with at bedtime is to read your audience. So asking yourself, how is my child's tiredness level? If you have a kiddo that falls asleep during the first book every night and they've picked out like 3 books to read, then you may need to shorten up your bedtime routine or start it earlier because they're too tired to do the full bedtime routine. They're missing out on part of it, which for some parents might be fine. The other challenge are kids who, by the end of the book, are still talking fast. They've got so much energy and ideas going on up here. Their hands are moving quickly. You're not seeing any of the tired signs like long blinks or yawns or eye rubbing. My kids, when we're reading stories at night, they start to feel really heavy. They will both start leaning in on me, and I can feel the weight of how tired they are. I know their head needs to be on a pillow. So sometimes that's when I grab the bookmark and just say, I think it is time for us to get to bed, and we will either finish this story or we'll finish this chapter next time. So getting them in bed the minute they start to feel heavy and you're seeing long blinks is really, really helpful. Then they don't re-alert. Again, read your audience because you want to avoid that re-alert right as they're going to bed. That can be the point where you transition from books to bedtime, that they remember they have to go to the bathroom. Oh, they need to kiss the cat one more time. This has been an ongoing bedtime problem for us. Oh, I just need to kiss the cat. And then that takes 10 minutes and they've re-alerted. So now I make sure they do all those things before we read books. But reading your audience is huge. Just being aware of your child's tired signs and knowing when they're coming on so that you can gauge, like, okay, in another minute, we need to be head in the pillow, lights out. These 5 things are so helpful for parents having a peaceful bedtime routine. And I don't necessarily, parents do all sorts of different things for their bedtime routine. But as long as you're paying attention to those 4 things, you make sure you're using, 5 things, and you make sure you're using all 5 of them, bedtimes usually go a lot smoother, maybe not on night 1. It might actually take 5 nights of really watching, making sure you're starting at the same time, doing the same things. You've got a cozy little cave in there. You're making sure bedtime feels good for both of you, and you're reading your audience to know when they're ready to go into unconsciousness. You may have to do those for a week or 2 weeks before things start to really shift, but they will shift. And that's one reason why parents hire me, so that I can be there to answer questions, hold their hands, give them new ideas for things that are not working, and make sure that they are able to achieve their goals. Because if you think that you're going to be able to implement all of these things in one night and have it work like a charm, you will be disappointed. It is true. Because for most kids, it takes a very long time. Well, I don't even want to say a long time. It takes many opportunities of practicing this before it becomes ingrained in the body and the mind. So keeping that in mind, I hope that you go on to make beautiful new bedtime routines, or even add in some beautiful new aspects of your bedtime routine. Or some of you need to take out some things that aren't serving you and do them earlier in the day. That is my best advice for bedtime routines. Really looking at the science and why we do things, not just feeling like we should do things out of obligation. It's important to know why we do the things we do as parents, because if we're not really invested in them, or we don't really believe that they're going to work, they won't work. Okay, I would love to hear the best part of your bedtime routine and the hardest part of your bedtime routine. Talking about the hardest part of bedtime routines is one of my favorite things to do, because we can almost always tweak it. So please share in the comments one of the things you're struggling with your bedtime routine, and then one thing that you really love about your bedtime routine. That would be really sweet to share. And I am really looking forward to any other questions that come my way. Here it's Q&A Wednesday, so hit me with your best shot. And again, cheers to education. Thank you. Have a good one.